Ready to master your media projects? It's time to get things done on your Chromebook.
Hey, Zeus.
Hey.
Look a little busy over here.
I'm doing a little bit of something. You know, I'm always in work mode.
Okay. What type of things you getting done today?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I don't know if you can see on the screen here, but I'm a little hard at work on my book. You know, I am working on a new book, guys. I just made some changes to it. But that's here and there. We're not about to go into talking about my book. I mean, I'm supposed to surprise y'all, right? You know, can't just put everything out there, then you're not going to want to read it, right? So, what I wanted to talk to you guys out there about is, as you can see behind me, you see we're in the studio. You see all kinds of different equipment that's here. Different type of devices that you can use to go ahead and do all these different things when it comes to media. We got some more stuff over there, the video, the photography equipment and whatnot. I've talked about it plenty of times in past videos, but I get asked all the time because a huge thing now is like with the economy and how things are getting a little bit rough. Cost of living is going up. But it doesn't stop your creative juices from flowing, right? You know, you want to do different projects that involve all these different mediums of media, right? But you just don't have it in the budget to get the equipment. Like what you see around here, this is not something that I got overnight myself. This took quite a bit of time to accumulate all this different type of equipment. But is there a way where you can kind of simplify what you have or what you need per se in order to accomplish and do all these different projects when it comes to media?
And as expensive that they
the
are,
answer is yes.
that you can
to
get
take
yourself
it
a
a step further,
Chromebook,
which are, I'm not saying there are certain Chromebooks out there that are just as much as if you were just going to get a laptop, right? If you were going to go with Lenovo or Acer, some of these other big name companies. But for the most part, Chromebooks have been throughout the years pretty affordable, right? The problem with it is that you had to use just strictly Google products, whatever was the presets or whatever programs that were already installed on there. It wasn't allowing you to use like third-party vendors, third-party plugins, let alone, as you can see here, hook up different types of equipment to it, right? It was just whatever's on the Chromebook, that's it, right? But unfortunately enough, throughout the years, I think Google has seen not only installing their software suite, which is their library has advanced over the years as well, all kinds of different types of apps that you can use to do different things. But they open it up so that this can be an epicenter, like an all-in-one studio if you're kind of in a budget-friendly type of situation where you don't have the access, not just from a money standpoint, but you may not even have the space to put or get all this different type of equipment that you would like to have, right? So let's talk about it. You know, the interface is fairly simple. It's nothing all crazy or whatever, but just to enlighten you on some different types of applications that you can use on here. Let's start with the music. If you're big on music and you want to get into, especially if you're trying to get into like the whole thing when it comes to like music production, not just making beats and doing musical arrangements, right? You know, you want to advance yourself, you know what I mean? Maybe you want to do different type of scores, musical scores for like films or for different types of videos. You want to create your own sound library, basically, right? Different virtual instruments, loops, synths, and then do the mixing and the mastering and whatnot. Well, the great thing about this is that Now they offer full-fledged DAWs, which wasn't something that they did, I would say, maybe like 5 or 7 years ago. So it allows you to create music. You can input MIDI. As you can see here, I have it plugged up. And I'll show you some of the different things in a few minutes when it associated with that. But you can't plug it up. Also can plug up a mic. You can record audio as well. But you have a full-fledged DAW that allows you with your whole library on here. This is Cubase 3, made by Steinberg. They have a more full-fledged program, but unfortunately it's just for Mac and for PC, right? But they offer basically a modified version of it, which is essentially almost as good as their flagship program. And as you can see on here, you have the different tracks. You can record. You can add automation into it. Sequencing. Different types of plugins that you can put in onto here as well, or apply it to. You could use third-party plugins as well. You could create your own library on here. And you know, you have your taskbar at the top that gives you the same functionality that you would get from a DAW if it was on your desktop PC, or if you were using Mac, right? If you were using Ableton, if you were using Fender, if you were using Native Instruments, you know, all the marquee DAWs that you have out there, right? You can notice it's still set up the same way, right? You still have the same functionality that you would see in any other DAW that you see. You know, you can route it as you see fit. Export, import. If you have from your cloud that you have your own like sound library, you can pull from that, you know what I mean? Import it onto your DAW, onto your musical project, and just make music. So the great thing there is that you don't necessarily have to settle on just using like music apps. There are basically, like, as you can see here, set up in structure in a way where it just has like the pads, and then you kind of just input and manipulate the sounds that you have in each pad, right? You can have a flagship DAW where you can actually do an entire musical arrangement. You can develop melodies, right? Then the neat thing too is they open it up to also, if you wanted to use music software, music editing software, and music making software, but you technically you're playing it off the internet, right? So the great thing about this is this one that you see on here is called Amp Studio. Another one that's similar to this is BandLab, which is probably a lot of people, you're familiar with that one. Amp Studio is something fairly new that just came into existence probably in the last couple months, but it's very similar in structure. As you can see, the interface, it's not that much different from BandLab. As you notice on here, it's broken down into different categories depending on what you want to do in each track. You know, your kicks, your snares, your drums. You want to add some synths to start building on your melodies. You have it all right here. Yes, they have a free version. They also have a paid subscription model as well. If you want to utilize the subscription model, obviously you get more things, more sound packs, more features that you can utilize. But again, as you can see on here, it's still pretty much the same setup as you've seen with the Cubase, right? And it's all on your Chromebook. And you can play this exactly off the internet And the same thing, import, export. And then you have like your basic controls, which are encoders, in which you could do some mixing. It's not meant to be overly in depth. I just want to keep that in mind when it comes to the music, guys. So you're going to have to use another third-party software to do some proper mixing and mastering. You know, so you can develop your sound on here. I'm not saying that. You can. But in order for it to have like that good quality that you're looking for and that clarity that you're looking for in your music production, you're going to have to use something else that's a little bit more upscale. But just to get started, even just using the free version is an amazing tool. And again, it's affordable. And it's all set right here within this Chromebook. It also injected AI as well if you want to use AI to help you create like different templates for yourself to pivot off of, right? So that's a great thing about music, is that you can have a full-fledged DAW, or if you're just looking to kind of just shape your sound and then move on to creating the entire production. You can use different types of apps here where you can start crafting your sound, crafting your melody. This one right here is called Elastic OSC. This was actually exclusive just for Apple. An amazing thing about it is not only they provided this app for Windows, but they even took it a step further and they provided it for Chromebook as well. So Chromebook does have your Google Play Store that you see normally on Android phones, right? Whereas most of the apps that you see on your phone, on your smartphone, you could pretty much get them right on Chromebook as well, which is a great thing, right? And this is one of them. And this is great for making like different types of synths, but I also will use this too for maybe like sound effects if you wanted to use in your background. You know, just some small little maybe Vox textures or just some type of audio textures overall that just gives a little bit more oomph, a little bit more substance to the melody that you're making. I will utilize this. And as you, again, it's already plugged up, right? And then the great thing is the controls are pretty cool. As far as like if you notice up here, for example, you got your basic controls of recording and playing, right? But then you have over here is your banks. And these banks are set up for as if you just pressed A, it would strictly just be the keys, right? If you just press B, it would strictly be the pads, right? And then your pad controls the controls associated with your pads, as you see over here, with your encoders. And then you have some more options up here. It's all automatically programmed and built within if you press the B bank. Or you could press A plus B, which allows you to play the keys and the pads, right? Depending on your comfortability, right? Now you guys know I'm not all that great when it comes to like just the sequencing of my fingers. You know, I don't have reflexes like some of these guys here where they could just go all crazy with the pads. I'm not all that great on the keys either. I only could do a few keys at a time, but you guys already know that. But the fact that you have the option to play off both, right? So with the keys, I would say that you can create more like a structured melody, right? Or at least a template to build off of, right? And then you could probably use the pads to just kind of input like them effects, if that's what you were looking for, right? And then the neat thing too is you come over here, you're using the controls right off your MIDI controller. In this case, I'm using the Akai MPK Mini, something very well known. If you, especially in the music world, if you are a producer yourself, we go ahead and press for the octave to go up. And you notice the octave goes up. All right. Bring it up another one, another octave. And you can notice how the sound becomes bright. You bring it back down again. Then you take it even lower with the octaves. All right. Right? And then the neat thing too is you can add some ARP to it, right? To add a little bit more to the overall tempo. And the neat thing about that, with just hearing that, is it almost gives you, like, that's just a quick sample when it comes to, like, it sounds almost alien, right? So if you're doing something that you wanted to incorporate some type of alien sound, spaceship, something sci-fi-ish in nature, you know, this works for you. You know what I mean? Compact, as you notice, not taking up a lot of space, something portable that you could take on the go. As you see, I have my little go bag right here. You know, you just throw it on there wherever you have a few minutes. Maybe you're at your 9 to 5 lunch break. You could go out and just produce something real quick. Put something together on your lunch break and then go about your business, right? Last thing too, just to show you, as you notice down here in the corner, you have your pitch and your modulation. So unfortunately, with these Akais, these older ones, they have like a knob. Now they have these sliders that allows you to do it, to make it a little bit easier. It's not too bad with this little jog wheel that they have provided here. So if you're going to do the modulation, you kind of just press up and down to kind of give you some range. And then if you want to do pitch, you would go from left to right. And of course, you have all your encoders on there that, you know, you could do different types of things to add more textures. You could do some soft mixing that's on here, raise the overall gain to the production, so forth and so on, right? The great thing too about these Chromebooks is that most of them are touchscreen. So if you didn't exactly have the hardware that accompanies this, you know, you could just have the touchscreen and you just do everything manually. So that's the great thing about with the Chromebook. It gives you that flexibility, right? Where you could do a full-fledged production, or you can allow yourself to use these different apps to go ahead and just make different types of components, basically, that comes to music. And then you can just start building your library and use it for later, right? Then another neat thing about this is that more full-fledged applications, again, that you would see usually on Windows or Macs, they're providing it more little by little for the Chromebooks. For example, this is a very popular application. Clip Studio or Clip Paint Studio. The neat thing about this program is that if you had it on Windows, you can actually sync it onto, if you already have bought the program outright, that licensing can be transferred to your Chromebook, and your Chromebook license can be transferred right back to your Windows if you were using a laptop or your PC. So that's a great thing about that. I can't say that for every application that deals with graphic design. But I just know for this particular one, Clip Paint Studio, you can do that. And again, this is just a great software. I know a lot of people use it. Offers all kinds of different tutorials that you can use on here to kind of help you navigate through the program, get a better understanding of it. So it allows you to do different things. You know, you could come down here, you can manage your materials. It's a plethora of stuff that you can just go ahead and download. If you were making like a lot of like 3D models, shapes, geometrical shapes, overall background textures, if you wanted to add that. You know, different types of color patterns, so forth and so on, right? And then it's easy to navigate. You just go up here to draw, right? You get to pick what canvas that you want. They even break it down into a few different subgroups, depending on exactly what you want to do. And then you just go ahead and click. And there's your canvas. You have your tools on here that you can click. And it just gives you the different tools that you can utilize if you're looking to sketch. You were looking to do something more with like a pen. Maybe you're using it to kind of outline your drawings, right? Add some shadowing, sprays, brushes, different tips, depending on the sizes. Maybe you're looking for something a little bit more precise. You know, you have different types of tools as well, fill tools, coloring tools. You can add filters, so forth and so on. So again, if you're into doing graphic design, right, and you may not necessarily have it for you to get like some type of drawing board or digital drawing board, right, like what you see up there, or I got one right over here from Huron. You know, most Chromebooks, like I said, you can go ahead, touchscreen, and you can sync a pen to this. So you can use the ones that you can find in the store that allows you to just go ahead and start drawing on the screen itself. There's also pens out there that sync actually to your device. Either way, how you do it, you'll be able to do it with a Chromebook. So the great thing too, what we just showed you just far, just with music, just with art, even with the music, just doing within the application, just creating different type of melodies, different types of musical arrangements, or if you're just looking just to make produce vocals, just create some simple beats, some simple templates just to work off of later. You can do that whether you want to use the application that's on here or you want to go online and work off there. You have that ability to do that. And then Google offers some things personally. This is something fairly new called the Gemini Notebook. Gemini is not new. It's basically their flagship AI application that they provide. I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with it. It's basically their version of a Chat GPT, right? But here with Notebook, the neat thing about this is it helps you kind of with the data management information that you might have came across. It kind of breaks it down to you in more simpler forms, put it into different types of subgroups, so that you have a little bit more of an understanding going into a project, just knowing the different facets and what exactly that you're trying to do, right? This is also helpful if you're doing like different types of reports, right? It's also helpful if you're an author. Like right here, just for the sake of the video, I'm working on a novel. Yes, I said it in the past video that I wasn't going to do the novel. I changed my mind. I'm going to do the novel. I'm just going to really take my time and not be so so quick to quit, I guess, or give up on it. You know what I mean? But just to show, for example, it gives you a brief synopsis of my book or the novel, or what I'm trying to do with that. And then it breaks it down to you into different questions. You can click on them questions and then continue to get a better understanding of your own concept. Maybe there's some things that you're overlooking when it comes to like the world building or the character development. This can kind of help you with that. And then they break it up into, again, different subgroups where you can check different videos, different type of databases, slides, different audios. You can come over here into this prompt and search for more sources on the web associated with this to give you a little bit more clarity as far as what you're trying to do with your book, right? Or you could just go right here and just click a whole new notebook, right? You can search the web, or you can drop your own files from your own file directory, and it will break it down, the information to you, to its simplest form, basically, so that you have an understanding going forward of maybe you're trying to do a better job when it comes to like your project management initiatives, right? Getting a more understanding of how to incorporate different mediums of media into your projects. This can help you out and essentially create notes for you that you can always come back for reference, right? And then, last but not least, if you're looking to incorporate AI, I know for some people, they're still kind of like on the fence when it comes to that, right? Before I get into that, I do want to make a note too. More popular apps, like you see CapCut, it's a pretty popular app when it comes to like video editing. They actually have that available now for Chromebooks. It used to be not, right? And even more popular, well, it's starting to teeter toward being popular. Like we discussed in the previous video about using Meshy, right? AI program, but it allows you to make like these different 3D models when you're trying to construct or build something. Now they have it available so that you can make an app out of it. And then you can store right on here as an application on your Chromebook, right? So Zencaster, you guys know I use that for like when I do my virtual videos, right? Doing different interviews and stuff like that. You can use that and allow it to become an app onto the Chromebook. And then another one is that Luminar Neo. Again, this was only available for Macs, but now they have it available here for your Chromebook as well. So definitely check it out. Believe it or not, most apps that you see on the Google Store on your Android device, trust me, it will come up on the Chromebook. All right. But now, to last and not least, when it comes to using just the AI, right? So they offer what is called Flow. So there's Flow, and then there's Flow Music. And again, you got your prompt, you can put on there, and essentially you can ask it anything. You know, is there a way you could create a certain type of instrument? I'm having a hard time blending these two different type of instruments together in order to create some type of arrangement or some type of melody. Well, you can input it right on here and it'll make it for you. And then you could just build off of that. I know some people say this takes away from a person's creativity, but it's essentially just here to help you out. If you're having a little bit of creative block, you can turn to this. All right. And then this is Google Flow. You know, you click on new project, and you can see you can edit your video. It can make clips of video. There is a time restraint on your video. You can't have like something super long, like a half an hour to an hour. It's not going to do that. But anything under, I believe, like 20 minutes, it can make clips of it that you could put onto your social media platforms. It could create, look, it could create keyboard shortcuts. You can use it to organize and essentially strengthen your file directory. You can drop some media in there, and obviously AI, through its algorithm, can kind of like soup it up a little bit and make it a little bit better for you. So this is just another option. If you didn't want to be so dependent on Gemini, Google offers all this, plus a bunch of other different types of things within their software suite. You already know they offer like to make spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, Word documents, right? You can also use the Google Analytics. We talked about that before, to keep the analytics and keep data on how much traffic is coming towards your social media sites or your websites, so forth and so on. So the Chromebook has advanced, guys. Expand yourself. And most Chromebooks are affordable. Yes, there are some expensive ones out there. This particular one that you see right here is more of the expensive ones. This is a Samsung Galaxy LE Chromebook. So it'll cost you a few hundred. But you can get yourself a really good Chromebook anywhere between like the $200, $250 range, which is not too bad. And as you can see here, there's so many different things that you can do. The functionality is immersive when it comes to here, especially if you're like myself, who involves itself with so many different things when it comes to media, all the different elements that's associated with that. You can essentially do it right here on your Chromebook, and you don't need all this different types of equipment. You know what I mean? This is something that you can use for the time being until you're in a position where you could build your own studio. So I'm glad you guys tuned in. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Hope it was insightful. And that's about it. So I'm glad you guys tuned in. And guess the only thing left to say is get things done. Check you later.